It's time for NCW Life News on the NCW Life channel. The latest from around the Wenatchee Valley and North Central Washington with Steve Hare, Cody Johnson, and sports with Eric Granstrom.
Good evening and welcome to NCW Life News. I'm Cody Johnson filling in for Steve Hare. A few of the stories we're working on for you tonight. Insurance rates throughout Washington State will climb 22.3% on average next year. Senator Patty Murray gets into a heated exchange over repealing and replacing the Affordable Care Act, and an ammonia leak causes a scare in Kashmir. Later on, we'll have sports with Eric Granstrom and your weather forecast with Dan Kuntz. Our top story tonight, healthcare costs are on the rise. On June 8th, 11 healthcare insurance companies filed 71 plans for 2018 in Washington State. That's less than half the number of plans that are available this year.
Representatives Dan Newhouse and Kathy McMorris Rogers released a statement today after insurance rate increases were filed for Washington State for 2018. Chelan and Douglas counties will have only one insurer offering coverage on the exchange. The representative said that Washingtonians are again facing higher health insurance costs and decreasing options in the individual market, including no options in 2 counties for Washington State. Proposed premium increases statewide reach as high as 38%. They went on to say that despite state efforts to prop up this flawed, unstable law, it's clear that Obamacare is on an unstable path in our state. We refuse to allow this failed government-knows-best approach to cause more damage, and we're committed to working with our colleagues in Congress to ensure Washingtonians have access to the quality, affordable health insurance that they deserve.
Senator Patty Murray got into a heated exchange last week over the issue of repealing and replacing Obamacare. It happened during a hearing before the Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee over drug pricing. Senator Murray asked committee chairman, Republican Representative Lamar Alexander, if he planned to schedule a hearing on the health care reform bill passed out of the House and now being worked on by GOP lawmakers behind closed doors. Alexander took issue with the request.
And we can discuss Obamacare if you would like, but today we're trying to discuss drug pricing, which is up to 15%. Well, you brought up the issue.
You a question.
You asked me the question
Absolutely.
about Obamacare, which is not the subject of today's hearing.
I
And if
agree.
that's the way you want to spend your time, fine. But I don't know why I should call hearings requested by the Democrats with bipartisan hearings
Mr.
when you won't
Chairman,
focus on the hearing.
I appreciate that you're having this hearing, but I also would very much appreciate that we have a hearing on a bill that we are going to see that our folks have not seen, people across the country haven't seen. When we passed the ACA, we had 57 bipartisan help committee hearings and meetings and roundtables. So I will just say that is disconcerting.
You passed the
to all of us.
HCA in the middle of a snowstorm with 60 votes and crammed it down the throats of Republicans. If you want to talk about that, we can, but today we're talking about drug pricing.
We are talking about drug pricing. It's an important part of the healthcare program, but I think people in the country are deeply worried about what is happening to the healthcare system.
A similar scene played out in another Senate committee hearing with the same outcome. The spirit of bipartisanship has been notably strained on the issue. Residents in the Kashmir area were placed under a shelter-in-place order Sunday afternoon after an ammonia leak was reported at the Treetop processing plant. The plant is located off US 2 near Cottage Avenue. The highway was closed down in both directions while hazmat crews worked to find the source of the leak. The leak was repaired and the roadway was reopened after about an hour, and the all-clear signal was issued by Chelan County Emergency Management around 4:15. No details have been released about the source or the cause of the leak. Coming up, Wenatchee police perform a high-risk arrest with a short standoff. The Washington State Patrol will emphasize left-lane camping in their patrols, and a small brush fire in Chelan Falls was quickly knocked down. I'm Cody Johnson. You're watching NCW Life News.
Stay up to date with what's happening in North Central Washington. Go to the NCW Life community calendar at ncwlife.com.
Welcome back to NCW Life News. A Wenatchee man who was wanted in connection with an alleged assault was arrested Friday afternoon following a short standoff with police at a home on South Chelan Avenue. It was reportedly a tense scene when officers first arrived. Robert Gillian was allegedly holding his 3-year-old daughter when he asked police to shoot him. The street was closed off briefly while officers negotiated with the suspect to release the girl to Child Protective Services. The incident ended peacefully with the unarmed man's arrest. The Washington State Patrol would like to remind everyone to save their camping for the wilderness and not the left lane. In response to the request, the Washington State Patrol will be conducting a statewide focus of effort to address the left lane violators. The focus of the effort will take place June 20th through the 22nd. State law requires all vehicles to keep right except when passing on multiple lane roadways. Left lane campers are drivers who remain in the passing lane for long periods of time without passing. If you're caught camping in the left lane, it could result in a $136 ticket. The Washington State Patrol reported 16,453 left lane violators last year. Crews were able to quickly knock down a small brush fire near Chelan Falls on Saturday that started around 4 p.m. The fire burned about 5 acres under a set of power lines. Because of recent rains and minimal fire fuels in the area, firefighters from Chelan County Fire District 7 and the Orondo Fire Department were able to contain the fire by 6 o'clock. The cause of the fire is still under investigation. You're watching NCW Life News. Coming up next, we have Eric Granstrom with sports and your weather forecast with Dan Kuntz and our feature story on the grand opening of the new Wenatchee Valley Chamber of Commerce.
Get the fastest internet available in North Central Washington by switching to LocalTel and get speeds up to 1,000 meg. Call 888-8888 today or go online to localtel.net.
And now it's a sports update on the NCW Life channel.
And a happy Monday evening. Hope you had a great weekend. Boy, the Wenatchee Apple Sox sure did. The Sox picked up an exciting win over Gresham Sunday at Paul Thomas Senior Field. Voice of the Apple Sox, Trevor Williams, has all the details.
Kind of an unbelievable game for the Wenatchee Apple Sox last night. Evan Johnson, his second 2-home run game of the season, an 8-7 win over the Gresham Grey Wolves at Paul Thomas Senior Stadium. Evan Johnson was phenomenal. Adrian Damla in his first Apple Sox at-bat, a home run to right field as well. And the Bats, they were alive last night in the 8-7 win. Don't forget about the pitching staff. 15 strikeouts for Wenatchee's pitchers, 4 of them combined in the ballgame for the win. Hugh Smith got the save. Connor McCord the win in his first Apple Sox start of the season. It was a fun night at Paul Thomas Senior Stadium. Multiple times Gresham continued to try to claw back at the Apple Sox, but they had the answer every time. They could get out of the innings with still a 1-run lead. Evan Johnson, it was phenomenal to watch. He now is tied for the league lead in home runs with 6, and his 21 ribbies are a West Coast League best. No one else is even within 5 of Evan Johnson in the RBI chase. It's amazing what the offense is doing right now. Tonight we play Game 3 of the series at Paul Thomas Senior Stadium. A 7:05 first pitch. McCabe Cottrell getting the start for the Apple Sox against the Gresham Grey Wolves.
Thank you much, Trevor. Boy, Evan Johnson ripping the cover off the ball. Also, West Coast League play on Sunday. It was Bellingham downing Bend 8-3. Cowlitz over Corvallis 6-5, and Kelowna by 1 past Yakima Valley 2-1. So the standings: Bellingham on top at 9-5. Kelowna a game back at 8-6. Walla Walla and Wenatchee both a game and a half back, 7-6 for the Sweets, 9-8 for the Apple Sox. Victoria 2.5 back at 7-8. Port Angeles 3 games back in last place at 7-9. Wenatchee Valley gave up an 82-yard touchdown pass and 99-yard kickoff return for a touchdown and saw a 12-12 game at the start of the fourth quarter end up in a 40-15 home loss on Saturday at the Apple Bowl at Lee Bofto Field. The Rams dropped to 1-4 with the loss and will host Tri-City Saturday at the Apple Bowl, trying to get back on the winning track. Well, the recent NCW Sports Awards banquet recognized the lifelong accomplishments of Bruce Bennett. Before the event on June 6th, I sat down for a conversation with my old friend.
Now,
I wanted to put this backdrop up behind us here because Bruce and I spent many a night calling Apple Sox games on the radio for me, and Bruce, of course, keeping the stats for the Apple Sox for the first, 17 years of their existence?
Right.
How did that come to be? How did Jim Corcoran get a hold of you and knew that you had any interest in numbers and stats?
When Jim and Mike Cassidy had the Wenatchee Business Journal, I worked for them and did
Oh, that's right. I forgot
work.
about that.
And then I left the Business Journal, and Rexy and I had the dollar store out there at the old Kmart Plaza.
Right.
And Jim called me one day, and he said he's been trying to get a baseball team in town for some time, and he finally got one. And he said, Bruce, I know you have interest in sports and stats and all that, and went across the street to Taco Del Mar and had lunch or whatever, and he presented the thing, and for 17 years I've been there.
Now, prior to doing that, I mean, you've been a stats guy for a long time.
Yeah.
So what got you first into it, and what was the first thing that you remember doing as far as keeping track of numbers?
Probably as a junior high in those days, grade school, junior high, in the north end of Seattle. I started keeping track of baseball stats. And that's the earliest I can remember doing it. And
you just did that while you listened to a game, that type of thing?
Well,
or
there was
go to a game, or?
There was a tabletop game called All-Star Baseball.
Okay.
And I used to, these little round cards for the individual players, and I used to play games, and I'd start keeping the stats. And of course, up until just a few years ago, everything you did was by hand.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot easier with a computer.
You have not only been keeping track of the Apple Sox stats over the years, but you've been compiling a historical perspective for, I know, Wenatchee High School. I know you've been working on Wenatchee Valley College. You did some of that on the west side before you came here to the Wenatchee Valley too, didn't you?
Freddie Harbor.
Yeah.
We lived on Salmon Island, and so I got involved with Freddie Harbor High School, and I did the same thing there that I've done here, try to dig back and come up with a sports history of all the sports that they had. Easier here, we've got a computer.
Right.
There, everything was a typewriter.
Yeah. And you've spent a lot of time, well, computer, but microfiche, newspaper, Wenatchee World.
I mean, it's...
You live at the library, don't you?
I spent weeks worth of time at the Wenatchee Library. I mean, put it all together. I've been there a long, long time.
Well, and the interesting part, now we should share this with our viewers, is some of the things that you found in trying to dig up those stats from back in the day for, like, for example, when Wenatchee High School first started playing girls basketball, they didn't keep stats, a lot of stats, or at least they didn't report it in the newspaper back then.
Yeah. Yeah, there was very little of that. Just trying to find the games in the paper sometimes was difficult. But then they had them, and they would, of course, there was, in the girls that days was 3 and 3, 6, so there's only 3 of them scoring in the first place. Right. They didn't score much.
Right.
But no, that was, yeah, there was some just fascinating stuff. You got back in the old newspapers, and you're there for high school sports or college sports, but you see headlines, whoa, the Titanic, World War I, and these things you've heard about, and you spend a lot of time off.
Squirrel, yeah, the squirrel moment.
Yeah.
And Bruce was all smiles the night of the banquet, receiving the Don Elliston President's Award from Wenatchee North Rotary.
All I can say is thank you. I'm not going to stand up here and go into sports stats and bore you with those, but it blew me away when I found out about this. It's been going on a long time. It was kind of emotional when I first found out. You just sit at home and play with your computer and a bunch of things and play with numbers and stats and history. And then to have it amount to something like this and be honored for that, when it's just a bunch of numbers that I have fun with, it's really special. Thank you so much, everybody concerned, and particularly for Jim and Ken at the Apple Sox. I think they had a little more to do it than they let on the other night. Thank you.
And if you missed the NCW Sports Awards banquet, it will re-air this Friday at 7 o'clock right here on the NCW Life channel. Turning our attention to the Mariners, well, they salvaged the final game of a 3-game series in Texas Sunday by downing the Rangers 7-3. Kyle Seager led the way with 3 RBI doubles. He had 3 ribbies on the game, 2 runs scored. On the mound, Christian Bergman improved to 4-4 on the season with a victory going 5 2/3, allowing 2 runs on 4 hits. Manager Scott Servais says he was pleased with his starters' performance, especially considering the hot temperatures and high humidity.
Bergie, we needed somebody to go out and give us innings, keep us in the ball game. Did a really good job mixing his pitches through a few more curveballs and some more off-speed stuff today to help him out. And it was huge, to get us in the dugout. And obviously Seager had a big day. Valencia home run off Darvish, big shot in the arm there as well. So the guys really stepped up today. It was toasty out there, there's no doubt. But it's kind of one of those gut check games. You're going to be in it. It's going to be hot. You got to find a way against, undoubtedly their best pitcher, and we got it done today.
The win was a bounce back for Seattle after falling Friday and Saturday by the same score of 10-4. Mariners return home to begin a series with Detroit tonight at Safeco Field. Sam Gaviglio on the mound against Anibal Sanchez. First pitch at 7:10. Also in the American League West on Sunday, Boston stopped Houston 6-5. Was KC downing the Angels 7-3, and Oakland passed the Yankees 4-3. The standings have the Mariners currently in 4th place. With sports, I'm Eric Grandstrom on the NCW Life channel. Cody, back to you.
Thanks, Eric. The Wenatchee Valley Chamber hosted an open house for the ribbon cutting of their new office on Friday. Hundreds of people turned out to get a sneak peek at the Chamber's new home.
It's an amazing day for the Wenatchee Valley Chamber of Commerce. We now have a permanent home, at least permanent for the next decade. It's located at 137 North Wenatchee Avenue, so on the corner of 2nd and Wenatchee Avenue, next door to the Stanley Civic Center. Could not be a better place for our visitor center as well as our chamber offices. We're excited to welcome the community into the space that they really built. They helped design it, they helped make it happen financially, and they're the reason why we're here. So we're very excited to show this place off and see what they helped us create. So I got to give credit to Jerry Barkley. She's our marketing director for the chamber. She really took on this project to look at it aesthetically. What color should the floor be? What color should the paint be? How should we decorate? What's the theme in the visitor center? Then she put together a team of contractors and designers to work with us. So we started with Forte Architect. They helped us see what could be in the space and how to lay it out, which was fabulous. And then we had the fortunate opportunity to work with Darren Klingensmith with Wenatchee Concrete, Timeless Concrete. And Darren brought in Ace Bollinger with Bollinger Construction and Jim Mott. And those 3 gentlemen really came here and decided, we want this to be a community pride piece. So yeah, we're gonna help you out. We're gonna help source all of the stuff. We're gonna look at what we can do to make this a place that not only honors our past, but helps us look to our future. And so they sourced the truck. They found this truck that's behind me from Foreman Orchards. Foreman Orchards gave us a very reasonable deal on this old blue, as I like to call it. They looked at features in the building. So you see key pieces here. They're all reclaimed from the Doré building, and then they use their skills to craft them into tables and accent walls and all of that stuff. And so if it wasn't for their vision, I don't think we would have as cool of a space that we have today.
It is a beautiful new home for the Chamber. We'll be back in just a moment with a recap of today's stories and your weather forecast for North Central Washington.
Stay up to date with what's happening in North Central Washington. Go to the NCW Life community calendar at ncwlife.com.
And welcome back. Recapping some of our stories from tonight. Healthcare costs are on the rise in Washington State. 11 healthcare insurers filed 71 plans for 2018 in Washington State. That's less than half the number of plans that are available this year.
Representatives Dan Newhouse and Kathy McMorris Rogers released a statement today after insurance rate increases were filed for Washington State for 2018. Chelan and Douglas counties will have only one insurer offering coverage on the exchange. The representative said that Washingtonians are again facing higher health insurance costs and decreasing options in the individual market, including no options in 2 counties for Washington State. Proposed premium increases statewide reach as high as 38%. They went on to say that despite state efforts to prop up this flawed, unstable law, it's clear that Obamacare is on an unstable path in our state. We refuse to allow this failed government-knows-best approach to cause more damage, and we're committed to working with our colleagues in Congress to ensure Washingtonians have access to the quality, affordable health insurance that they deserve.
Senator Patty Murray got into a heated exchange last week over the repeal and replacement of Obamacare. It happened during a hearing before the Senate Health, Education, Labor and Pensions Committee over drug pricing. Senator Murray asked Committee Chairman Lamar Alexander if he planned to schedule a hearing on the health care reform bill that was passed out of the House and is now being reviewed by GOP lawmakers behind closed doors.
And we can discuss Obamacare if you would like, but today we're trying to discuss drug pricing, which is up to 15%.
I need to
well, you brought up
I
the
did
issue.
ask you a question.
You asked me the question
Absolutely.
about Obamacare, which is not the subject of today's hearing.
I
And if
agree.
that's the way you want to spend your time, fine. But I don't know why I should call hearings requested by the Democrats with bipartisan hearings
Mr.
when you won't
Chairman,
focus on the hearing.
I appreciate that you're having this hearing, but I also would very much appreciate that we have a hearing on a bill that we are going to see that our folks have not seen, people across the country haven't seen. When we passed the ACA, we had 57 bipartisan health committee hearings and meetings and roundtables. So I will just say that is disconcerting.
You passed
to
the
all. So
HCA in the middle of a snowstorm with 60 votes and crammed it down the throats of Republicans. If you want to talk about that, we can, but today we're talking about drug pricing.
we are talking about drug pricing. It's an important part of the healthcare program, but I think people in the country are deeply worried about what is happening to the healthcare system.
Residents in the Kashmir area were placed under a shelter-in-place order Sunday afternoon after an ammonia leak was reported at the Treetop Processing Plant. The plant is located off US 2 near Cottage Avenue. The highway was closed down in both directions while hazmat crews worked to find the source of the leak. The leak was repaired and the roadway was reopened about an hour later, and the all-clear signal was issued by Chelan County Emergency Management around 4:15. No details have been released about the source or the cause of the leak. And now Dan Kuntz has your weather forecast for north central Washington.
The very northern edge of a high-pressure system that is bringing record heat to the Arizona and Nevada area is over our area, but it won't be for long. A dry cold front sweeps through the area Tuesday and Wednesday, escorting with it gusty winds and cooler temperatures than what we had today. For tonight, expect partly cloudy skies and an overnight low of 63. Sunny conditions are expected for the remainder of the week, with the afternoon high temperatures about normal for mid to late June, but the winds, they will be blowing. A northwest wind 15 to 20 miles per hour kicks up Tuesday and is expected to blow throughout Tuesday night and all day Wednesday before tapering off Wednesday night. Gusts above 30 miles per hour also in the forecast. Calm winds and temperatures slightly above normal return for Thursday, and the upcoming weekend looks sunny and warm at temperatures in the mid to upper 80s with very little wind. And a reminder, the first full day of summer is Wednesday. The summer solstice is 9/24 tomorrow night. And that's your forecast on the NCW Life channel.
And now for your video of the day. NCW Life's Jay Seebeck has some highlights from the Wenatchee River Bluegrass Festival.
Over the weekend, the annual Wenatchee River Bluegrass Festival was held at the Chelan County Fairgrounds in Kashmir. The popular event attracts both young and old bluegrass enthusiasts and guarantees fans a fun, interactive weekend and sore heels after 2 days of stomping their feet to the rhythm. The festival attracts bands from across the nation, but there is still a handful of local bands that perform at a high level. As soon as the campgrounds open on the Monday before, eager musicians begin to fill the fair campgrounds to the brim. Watch the performances by North Country and the Downtown Mountain Boys on the NCW Life magazine. I'm Jay Seebeck, NCW Life News.
That's going to do it for our newscast tonight. For more on these stories and other news from around north central Washington, you can find us on Facebook or visit our website at ncwlife.com. And remember, if you see news happening out there, we'd like to hear from you. You can send us an email at news@ncwlife.com or give us a call at 888-6295. I'm Cody Johnson. Have a good night.
This has been NCW Life News on the NCW Life channel. For more news, log on to ncwlife.com, like us on Facebook, and follow NCW Life channel on Twitter.
Get the fastest internet available in North Central Washington by switching to LocalTel and get speeds up to 1,000 meg. Call 888-8888 today or go online to localtel.net.